Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to understand structural functional approach. In the last lecture, we understood systems approach to political science. This is just the continuation of system approach, and this is another model of political system as given by Gabriel Almond and Powell, right? In their book, The Politics of the Developing Areas. Again, why Almond and Powell developed their theory? It was to address limitations of systems approach. What are limitations of system approach? What are limitations of system approach? That it is status quoist, it is not emancipatory, right? It is too general, it is not specific, it is not detailed about components, and it is just a conceptual framework, it is just a cosmetic exercise. Almond and Powell, in criticism of that the model is too general, it is not detailed, and it does not take developmental perspective, give their model. So to understand their model, we have to understand the influences first. So the influences on Almond and Powell to develop their structural functional approach. The first influence is, of course, David Easton's input output model. David Easton's input output model. What David Easton's model talks about? It talks about inputs, outputs, processor, and feedback. The structural functional approach is the same approach. Use the same model. It is just more detailed, and it is more detailed, and it takes developmental view, right? Then then functionalist functionalist functionalism is a method used by anthropologists like Radcliffe Brown and Malinowski, right? What is functionalism? What is functionalism, or what is the purpose of functionalism? It is to find universal features for developing features for universal features for models. This is functionalist and their purpose. Then the third influence is from traditionalists. Traditionalist, right? How they influence? Because traditional approach focus on structures, structural functional approach focus on function, right? No need to understand what and how they influence, but I will try to explain it. Institutional approach focus on structures, right? How it influences, it is a bit far-fetched, right? How traditionalists influence structural functional approach, Almond and Powell. That institutional approach focus on structure, and structural functional approach focus on function. Very far-fetched, right? Institutional approach focusing on structure in political system, how structure interact with each other, and structural functional approach focus on function. It is very far-fetched, but you have to write it. There is no other way, right? So Easton's model, then functionalists like Ratcliffe Brown and Malinowski influence Almond and Powell, and traditionalists also influence Almond and Powell. Now we'll try to understand the model 7 input output model. How 7? 4 inputs, 3 outputs. Right? I will make the model political system, 4 inputs, 3 outputs. So we'll start with inputs. We'll start with inputs or input functions, because we are understanding structural functional approach, input functions. He gives 5 functions or 4 input functions of a political system, of which first is political socialization and political recruitment. This is first function. This is first function. What is socialization? Socialization is basically making new generation aware about social behavior or social norms. So what would be political socialization? It is making new generation aware about political behavior and political norms, right? This is socialization. It is information with respect to a political system given to the new generation or someone who is new to a uh, particular system. So basically, what political socialization is making people aware about political behavior and political norms of a particular political system. Making people aware, giving them information about the system. Then the second input function is not second, but I have to explain recruitment as well. That it is basically joining a political system. I will be made aware of a particular political system, how it is, how it works. Then I will, if I join it, then that is political recruitment. Then there is political communication. What is communication? It is sharing of information, right? It is sharing of information, making people know about a particular thing, about particular programs, about particular policies, about particular programs. That is political communication, right? Then information sharing, basically information sharing. This is different than political socialization, because political socialization is for new people. Communication happens after recruitment, right? Okay. It is information. It is sharing information about new policies and programs. Then the third function is interest articulation. What is interest articulation? It is advancing interest of a particular group. It is advancing interest of a particular group, right? What it is trying to do, that it is advancing interest of a particular group. I will explain what it means, but for now it is just remember that it is a function of political system. Then interest aggregation. interest aggregation, that is collecting interests of multiple groups by political parties. Right? I will explain you how all things happen and who does it in a quite a detail now. But for now, just remember there are four functions that a political system performs according to Almond and Powell. The first is political socialization and political recruitment. The second is political communication. Third is interest articulation. Fourth is interest aggregation. So, so what is political socialization? It is making new generation aware about social behavior, social norms, not social but political behavior, political norms. What is recruitment? It is joining a political system. Who does it? Right? Who does it? Who performs this function? Family. If your family is a political family, you will be drawn towards that particular political ideology. Then school, right? How I will explain. Then peer group. Political socialization in school. How it happens? Let's suppose you go to a you go to a DAV school, right? You go to a, let's say, Gurukul or a madrasa, right? Either or Gurukul or madrasa. So you go to school, to a Gurukul or madrasa. In that school you will be taught particular ideas about how world functions, how politics functions. If you are a minority, if you are a majority, politics for you is very different. Then family, let's say your family is a minority family, let's say your family is from a particular political party, let's say your family belongs to a particular caste. Then then your whole political socialization will be according to that, right? You can be recruited with respect to political system as well. If your family is a hardcore, let's say I will give you Pakistan example. If your family is a hardcore Imran Khan fans, or you belong to hardcore Zardari fans, and you belong to hardcore, let's say, uh, Nawaz family fan. So if that is there, if that is there, then you are naturally drawn towards your particular people that you follow, right? So your family, your school socializes you with respect to a particular political system. They will say that a particular political system is good for you. Then you go to an environment which is which have diverse peer group, right? Which has diverse peer group, that one person is, let's say, from a minority Muslim, one person is Christian, one person is a communist, one person is a staunch Hindu, and all other things. When you interact with such peer group, then you will be open to new ideas. Then some people might shift their political loyalties and become loyal to other political parties as well. They might be recruited to that political parties as well. This is how socialization and recruitment happen. But you are a newbie, you are a kid in political system, and you are told new information that this particular political system is good for you. It is done by family, school, or peer group. Then political communication, information sharing about policies or programs. This is done by mass media. Every day you will see, in newspaper, if you read newspaper, you will see advertisement by political parties. Across political parties you will see advertisement. If you don't have Spotify premium, then you will, between songs, you might get political ads and all those things. You will find hoardings across India. Everywhere you go, you will find hoardings of politicians. So this mass media uh, will convey to you policies and program of the particular government, and it will try to say to you what government is trying to do, what a political system is trying to do. Then interest articulation. This is done by pressure and interest groups. Pressure and interest groups. Interest articulation, right? Pressure and interest groups. Interest articulation. Advancing interest of a particular group. Let's say I am a communist. I am, let's say, an environmentalist, right? I am an environmentalist. I will find people like me. I will find people like me, and I will take part in a protest against pollution. I will take part in protest against Aravalli, recent Aravalli order, right? So a particular interest group will have a particular idea or particular interest about a particular thing. Let's say I am an environmentalist, uh, as I just give you example of, right? So pressure groups or interest groups articulate interest will articulate their interest. Then there is interest aggregation, right? Political parties will aggregate a lot of this interest, a lot of these groups, and use them for getting power. That these are the four input functions of political system, which are political socialization and recruitment, political communication, interest articulation, and interest aggregation. Interest aggregation is carried out by political parties. So socialization and recruitment is done by peer group, family, and school. Communication is done by mass media. Interest articulation is done by pressure and interest group. Interest aggregation is done by political parties. That is the idea. Input functions we have covered. Now we'll try to understand output functions. Output functions. So there are three functions that a particular political system performs. So output functions and performed by. Output function, first output function is rule making. It is mainly performed by legislative. Performed by. It is mainly performed by legislative, but not legislative only. Executive and judiciary also performs it. How? Rule making. Let's say you must have seen in polity that there is this concept of delegated legislation, right? And in delegated legislation, what happens that broad structure of a law is formed by legislation, but the actual rules are formed by executive, which is delegated legislation. This is the idea. So rule making is not done by legislation only, but also by executive. Judiciary also can make rules. How? Recently you must have seen the judgment in Tamil Nadu versus Governor case, whereby Supreme Court of India formed a rule that within 3 months, President and Governor has to reply to the legislative body. Right. So rule making, which is primarily performed by legislation, but also can be performed by executive and judiciary as well. Then there is rule execution. Rule execution primarily performed by executive, but also by legislation and judiciary. Right? Legislation and judiciary. Executive performs rule execution, but it can also be performed by legislation and judiciary. I can give you examples. Let's say legislation has some executive functions like no confidence motion. No confidence motion is a executive function of legislative parliament, right? Parliament. Then judiciary performs some executive functions like giving direction to executive, that saying things or giving orders to elected bodies. All those things can be performed by judiciary as well. Then there is rule adjudication, primarily performed by judiciary, but can be performed by executive and legislation as well. Right? Executive and legislation as well. This model, what it tried to do was basically tried to solve the deficiencies of systems approach, whereby behavioralists say that the systems approach is not very detailed, right? Behavioralists say that systems approach is too general, and behavioralists say that systems approach is not taking developmental view. Systems approach not take developmental view, right? This is behavioralist criticism of systems approach. All these deficiencies were solved by structural functional approach, that it is detailed. It gives in detail, it gives quite uh, detailed functions, and how everything is done, how everything is, and who performs what. It is very detailed structural functional approach. It is not too general, right? And it takes a developmental view, in the sense that there is interest articulation and interest aggregation as well, right? Now we have to see criticism of structural functional approach. The criticism of structural functional approach is same as systems approach. So traditionalists criticize structural functional approach, calling it cosmetic exercise, that it is a very superficial exercise. It is just a makeup. It is not trying to say anything. It does not have deep analytical analytical value. It is very superficial, right? And traditionalist will say that it is status quoist. Then marxist marxist will also criticize. Marxist criticism of structural functional approach is again same as systems approach. For Marxist, theory is supposed to be praxis. Theory is supposed to be emancipatory, right? Theory should do do something. Theory should lead to revolution. But structural functional approach is, like systems approach, is very descriptive. It just describes the situation. It is again status quoist, and it does not lead to uh, change in developing world. It is not relevant for developing world because it does not lead to change in developing world. And and Marxists will say that in the name of science, it it perpetuates political system, right? Very descriptive, very status quoist, not at all emancipatory. Then behavioralist will also criticize. Behavioralist will criticize structural functional approach, and by will call it generalist, that it is very generalist. Again, they will criticize uh, structural functional approach and say it is generalist as well, while it tried to solve the deficiencies, that it is not very detailed, as systems approach is not very detailed. But again, behavioralists call structural functional approach to be generalist as well. Then then behavioralists say that both systems approach and structural functional approach are true broad generalization. They are not, they do not have deep analytical value. And what way forward they give, they say that we need to develop micro view on issues, right? Micro view on issues. So this was structural functional approach. I hope you understood both systems approach and structural functional approach as well. Uh, there are five, four, seven key elements of. I will again repeat them once, and then I will stop the lecture. So, what seven elements are there? Political socialization, political recruitment, political communication, interest articulation, aggregation. What are the three output? Rule making, rule adjudication, rule execution. So, this was structural functional approach. We have seen the criticism of structural functional approach as well. From the next lecture, we'll shift our focus to the new approaches in political science, of which we'll start with political sociology approach, and then we'll do the next approaches as well. So this was structural functional approach. I hope you understood structural functional approach. Thank you so much. Bye bye.